Welcome back to the second channel, the thoughts and reflections, the feels, if you will, that I've had on various guns and stuff over the years and while amassing this collection. Yeah, I still need to order more hooks pointing the right direction so I can get that wall finished and then we can go back to normal view. But anyways, I thought I'd touch on guns that changed me. Or rather, guns that changed the way I felt about pistols and things I learned a lot from or what inspired me in a direction. Reason for doing this is I've had the fortune and the task of reviewing over 400 guns on the main channel. 400 handguns, that is, but a few hundred rifles in there as well. But over the years, between that and more than 60 complete days spent at national and international level training events, I've developed some opinions and some thoughts on things. And I thought I would share those with you guys. Now, I firmly believe that guns are like cars. You look at a parking lot and everybody's got what was right for them at the moment they made a purchase decision based on their needs, their budget, their personal taste, brand loyalties, all kinds of things go into why we choose the car that we do. And the same thing, fortunately, can apply to handguns because there's so many options out there. You can choose what's really right for you. Today, I thought I'd do a little origin story and go back. This was my second handgun. Now, obviously, it's heavily modified, but it is a Gen 3 Glock 19. I bought this thing used because it's what the guy recommended, and it's what I could afford at the time, and I learned a lot with the Glock 19. I used it while getting into competitive shooting after I learned about ballistics and that this 4-inch 9mm is actually more powerful than the 3.8-inch 45 I had been carrying as far as muzzle energy, plus lighter, more comfortable, higher capacity and all that. But thanks to the Glock simplicity and thanks to their lack of innovation over the decades, there's a massive, massive aftermarket out there. And I enjoy tinkering, as I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. It's very easy to tinker on a Glock. There are tons of options out there, and it's still new ones coming out, as if every possible solution hasn't been figured out yet. And while I wasn't in love with the stock Glock 19 the way it came, and I came to find, the trigger wasn't as great as I was used to from a 1911. I didn't like the ergonomics on it. I was chasing performance, wondering if I could buy better shooting prior to getting all of those 60 days plus of training and everything that I've had since then. So I would buy performance parts and aftermarket parts and try them, and they were very, very easy to swap, readily available from a bunch of companies, and this was over a decade ago. Nowadays, it's mind-boggling how many options there are out there. But in doing so, I got to learn a lot about what makes your basic striker-fired gun tick, how they work, what really changes things, what doesn't. And so I got to change quite a few things on this. I don't remember whose trigger this is, but I'm still not a fan of this one. And I just bit my knuckle with the slide, as I always did. That, for me, was the biggest problem with the Glock 19, was the ergonomics. I wear XXL gloves. And when my hand gets on there, first off, my fingers fit perfectly off the finger grooves. They fit on the high spot, not the low spot, because my middle finger is thick enough that it pushes me down. And then I would always, I swear I had a scar from it for a while, pinch my finger while slamming in that magazine. Happened to me over and over again at training courses and in competition. And it wasn't until I tried this magwell, this was a prototype magwell, sent for me to get some feels on, that I didn't have that problem and realized that it was creating the space and the buffer to save my hand. Really, it was just the ergonomics of the gun was off. Additionally, you can see how high my knuckle comes up here, and so when the slide comes back, it is very, very close. And if anything is slightly off, let's say a speedy draw from a holster, I cut my knuckle on the edge of the slide. So I moved on from the Glock 19, eventually, thankfully getting into what I do now. I've had lots of better options. The Glock 19 is not a bad gun at all. Just like going back to the car thing, I wouldn't necessarily question your choice of automobile or argue that mine is better. I have what works for me and what I could afford at the time. the Glock 19, I think, also fits in that. Very, very reliable. A decade ago, you could build a Glock without using Glock parts, and now that's even easier to do, simply because they haven't bothered to change the recipe for so long, and through undercutting the competition, they got the law enforcement fame of so many law enforcement agencies carrying one, and that put thousands upon thousands upon thousands of copies out there, which meant there was demand for magazines, it meant there was demand for holsters, and eventually parts. And that's one of the fun things of the Glock. If I were to start over all again, or if I was talking to a new shooter, would I recommend the Glock 19? Probably not. However, just because there have been, I mean, this was over a decade ago, there have been a lot of much finer, in my opinion, pistols come out, and pistols that are as good or better in many ways that cost far less. Glock's days are numbered unless they do something radical, I think. Eventually, the agency deals are going to go away because they're going to move on. But at the same time, if you are a Glock person, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like your Glock 19, then it's right for you. That's simple. For me, it was just a matter of ergonomics and trigger feel. But I am grateful for my time with the Glock 19, and that's how this is one of the guns that changed me. I'd love to hear your stories. Please let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.